We were joined by a guest during this segment of the program who had a very, what I'd call, I think the word is salient or sober assessment about what could happen in Idaho if we have a ballot measure, which would be coming up 13 months from now, which would legalize recreational marijuana in the state. And he is
Medical marijuana.
medical, rather, excuse me. And I was going to say he's traveled to those states, though, where they have both and witnessed what's happened. Steve Millington, of course, is in studio with me, Bill Colley, but we're joined by State Representative Gerald Raymond, and he represents District 35, that in East Idaho. I say East Idaho. It depends. If you're in this part of the state, you say Eastern, but over there they often just say East Idaho. And so you got to work with those people on these things because just like in North Idaho, if you say Northern, they know you're a stranger.
Yeah, that's right.
But we'd like to welcome Representative Raymond. Thank you for coming on the program with us today.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Right off the top, I was looking at the column you had written a couple of weeks ago, and I don't think that most people. It's still 13 months out, but they've probably not given this a lot of thought. But you're trying to issue the warning now that this is what's the old line from Steve Irwin when he was the alligator hunter there, when he would say danger, 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 or crocodile hunter. But this could be very dangerous if this passes, at least from what you've seen.
Yes, I agree, Bill. This may be the biggest issue in our generation, and this is Idaho's opportunity to stop this in its tracks. It would not be a good situation for Idaho. Simply it wouldn't.
What have you witnessed in visiting other states?
Well, in Oregon, what we saw there was just a tremendous amount of homelessness. Under every overpass or every spot where there was a blade of grass where there was it was public domain. There were temporary tents set up, temporary cities, literally. Some of those places might have had 50 or 60 people in one spot in a small area. And we were told that most of those people are not only homeless, but they are using drugs to a great extent. How they get them, I don't know. But since marijuana has been legalized in those states, the homelessness has increased, mental health issues has increased. In Colorado, especially, talked to some educators there, and they said that marijuana use in the schools is just rampant. It's just out of control. And law enforcement has kind of lost the ability to even get a handle on it.
This often happens because recreational just seems to open the door or medical to recreational. But even then, if it's just medical, it often ends up in the hands of the wrong people. There's not a lot of ways to track where it goes once it's actually issued.
Well, if you read the initiative in Idaho, and that's what I would encourage people to do, is get your hands on the actual initiative, the legal language in the initiative. It's 20 pages long, and just read it. Just look at what it allows in the state of Idaho. If you hold a medical card, if you have been deemed someone who is worthy of having a medical card, you can have 1/4 pound of marijuana on your person.
Wow!
And you can grow 6 plants in your home. If you're deemed to be, if it's a hardship for you to get to a dispensary, which from what I've been told is 5 miles. If you live more than 5 miles away from a dispensary, you can grow 6 plants in your home. Well, if you're a caregiver, you can have enough marijuana on your person to help 3 of the people that you give care to. So you can have 3/4 pound on your person. Plus, you can grow 18 plants in your home. And when we start talking about those kinds of volumes of marijuana in the hands of who knows how many people up and down a street, how in the world do you ever control that? How does law enforcement ever decide who can and cannot, and who does and does not have the right to have marijuana and use marijuana? It's just going to be an impossible situation.
Well, based on the language in this initiative, It looks to me like that. By the way, this is Steve. Good morning, Gerald. How are you today?
Good morning, Steve. Good to hear your voice.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to sit next to you a couple of weeks ago and sit through that seminar up in Idaho Falls, and great opportunity. So,
thank you.
If we look at this thing in a real hard, practical sense, if this thing comes to fruition, this Idaho Medical Marijuana Act is what it's known as. I could have 6 plants in my property. My wife could have 6 plants. Other children in my household could have 6 plants. I could have a virtual farm of marijuana plants and still be totally legal.
As I read it, that is absolutely correct.
Well,
yes.
Yes. It does take a little time. The whole cockeyed thing is, 15, 18 pages long, but it doesn't take that long to read through it. But if you just pick out the real important points, holy smokes. Yeah, wait a minute. That was the wrong term. Holy smokes. Oh, boy. Mike. I've got
and you think about what quantity a quarter of a pound is. That for a normal recreational user would be enough to supply his total needs from what I'm told, for over a month.
Whoa!
And what this initiative in Idaho is so a quarter of a pound for one who holds a medical card is 4 times the amount that's allowed in other states who have medical marijuana legalized. So it is a very, very liberal initiative.
Gerald, you've probably studied this more than most other individuals in government to this point, at least. Where did they? Who crafted this Medical Marijuana Act thing for Idaho? If it's just 4 times as much as other surrounding states are using, where in the world did they come up with these numbers?
To be totally honest with you, I do not have the name or the identity of the individuals. I do not know who authored it. I could certainly ferret that out, but I guess I've made a conscious decision not to focus on that so much as just what it will do to Idaho and its citizens. I guess I'm just appalled that we're even considering this. But time will tell. Time will tell. Certainly, I would love to see this shut down in the signature portion of this process. I would just hope that there's not enough signatures to put this on the ballot.
We wanted to mention we're coming up on 8:14, and we're joined by State Representative Gerald Raymond, Steve Millington and Bill Colley too with you on News Radio 1310 KLIX, newsradio1310.com. We're at 46, and we're talking about a ballot measure that could pop up on the ballot in 2020 in November, which would be legalize medical marijuana in Idaho. Representative, when I think about how I didn't believe that Medicaid expansion was going to fly, I thought nobody in their right mind in large numbers is going to vote for that. And then when it reached the 60% plateau, I was a little stunned, which shows you that a lot of single issue voters probably are coming out. And that's my concern, even though culturally we have a lot of people, the majority I'm sure are opposed to this in the state, that the people who will come out on election day to vote for that measure will overwhelm everyone. I think that's not too far-fetched after what we saw with Medicaid expansion. Am I right?
I would agree with you, and I don't think it's any coincidence that this ballot initiative is being proposed during a presidential election year. I think that folks are hopeful that there'll be a turnout, and I hope there's a turnout. I hope there's a great turnout. That if it does get on the ballot, that people turn out and vote against it. That's my extreme hope. But I hope it doesn't get on the ballot. That's the first and foremost thing on my mind.
Gerald, the last time I heard any numbers, it would look like to me that there was nearly somewhere between 11 and 12,000 signatures so far, but that's a couple of weeks old. Do you have any more recent updates on the number of signatures?
No, that's the number that I've heard as well.
Okay.
That's the number that I've heard as well. And my information is about a week old, yeah.
We're going to try to take a telephone call, Representative. I warn you, though, I never know what we're going to get. But
Certainly.
All right, caller, you're on the air with State Representative Gerald Raymond on KLIX. Go ahead.
Good morning, guys. It's pretty clear what they are trying to do with the excess literature in this bill. They're shooting for Pluto, but willing to settle for the moon.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think this is one of those things that opens the door to that slippery slope. Once you get this through,
What's
then
next?
You move on, and when you see what happened in Denver, where they moved on and they managed by the slimmest of margins to actually pass, what was it, hallucinogenic mushrooms?
Yes.
That's people there probably, Representative, weren't all that different than we were 20, 25 years ago, and that's the another concern that I would have is that maybe culturally things are moving under our feet a little bit faster than we've realized.
Yeah, and I think what we need to do is put our feet back under us. What we're facing here is an invitation to an element of society into our state that does not adhere to the same values that we were taught by our parents and our grandparents, and not the values that we want to teach to our kids and our grandkids. We need to get our feet back under us and take a hard look at this and see where we really want to be in society. I think often I think often of the efforts that are put forth in preserving our forest lands and our public lands for the enjoyment and use of the next generations to come. And yet, are we willing to give up our core values for the generations that are yet to come? If we're willing to do one, we ought to be willing to do the other.
I had an opportunity to travel up to, I went to Payette on another matter, but while I was there, I thought, this is during the summer, I'll drive across the bridge and into Ontario, and I took my camera along, and I stopped and took pictures in the parking lot at what they call Weedology, and about 40 cars there, 36 of them had Idaho license plates. So the fact of the matter is there's going to be a lot of people who are likely sampling these products anyway when they're on the road. And even with just medical, I could see that happening too. If someone goes to a dispensary, it's mind-boggling just to see what we could be dealing with.
I would agree. It is mind-boggling, and we can't invite it to the state. If others want to go outside the state and experiment, I guess that is they're using their agency to do that. But we just simply can't invite this culture into our state.
We've got about a minute before our break. Steve's got a question, and if it's okay with you, we'll let him ask the question, and then we'll take a short break. And if you can stick around for a few more minutes, you can talk about it afterward.
Sure.
Representative Raymond, is there any the question that comes to my mind is, and I'm jumping forward here quite a ways. There is a tremendous amount of money that's being poured into this Idaho Medical Marijuana Act. At this point, we don't need to know where that money's coming from. Well, it would be nice to know, but it's not crucial. But let's assume for just a moment that it does qualify to get placed on the ballot. Now, they have to have the 55,000 signatures by April 30th of 2020. So that's only 6 months away.
That's correct.
Where, in your opinion, do we find money to counteract this thing in the general election?
Hold on to those thoughts. We've got to get to a break. We've got more coming up. State Representative Gerald Raymond joining us this morning. And we're talking about a potential ballot initiative that could show up in 13 months to legalize medical marijuana in Idaho. Steve Millington as well joining us. Steve is the chairman of the Twin Falls County Republican Party Committee. And Bill Cully on News Radio 1310 KLIX, newsradio1310.com. We're at 45 at 20 minutes after 8 o'clock.
What if I told you there was a way to step into another gear for your brain and be much sharper, more focused, and improve your memory to a level that you could only dream about, and notice these results in 30 minutes? Hard to believe? Neuroscientists are calling this new...
State Representative Gerald Raymond joining us this morning on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and NewsRadio1310.com, representing District Number 35 in the state legislature. Well, he's one of two representatives from District 35. We're coming up on 22 minutes after 8 o'clock. We're at 46. Steve Millington and Bill Colley with you, too, on NewsRadio1310.com. But Representative Steve had asked this question about the big money that we're seeing coming in here and what's behind it and how we might counteract it. Any ideas?
Well, there's a group of a grassroots group of people from eastern Idaho that are working on this issue diligently, and they are reaching out to folks statewide to help join this effort. The name of this group is Idahoans for Healthy Kids and Communities, and they have a website. There's a website that's up and running, and they're asking for anyone to donate to this cause, whether it be time, talents, any resources they may have, including money, to help fight this initiative. So if you just Google Idahoans for Healthy Kids and Communities, you'll find that on the website, and there's a spot on there where you can donate. I'm being told that there are donors in Idaho, not outside money, but Idahoans who are willing to donate considerable amounts of money to help fight this initiative. And it's going to be needed, no question.
That name again is Idahoans for Healthy Kids and Communities.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay.
And Steve had a point during the break. We were chatting here in the studio, and do we know who the big money is who'd be behind this? Because I'm going to guess there's some corporate titans that could see this as a benefit. As tobacco sales wane, they need to find new products to actually stay in business. Do we have any idea, who some of those big players might be?
I do not at this point in time. I just simply don't. But I think you're right. There will be folks who are interested in seeing this expand, and we just need to make sure that we on the home front fight it for all we're worth.
We've got a caller, I think, who was looking to join us, but the caller, we may have answered the question the caller had in mind.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do we have another caller, or did they check off?
I think they checked off. So
doggone.
See, the representative's going to such detail, he's answered their question.
And I think that's important. That the thing that Gerald, you need a bigger platform. Can you get people in Pocatello and Boise and Coeur d'Alene? Can you build a consortium of people who have the like-minded idea on this initiative, so that you can get a bigger footprint across the state of Idaho? When we read the article down here, I think it was it in the Jeffersonian in Rigby?
The Jefferson Star.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. Thank you. I got close enough.
Yeah.
That, we need to have articles like that in every newspaper in the state, and not just your name, but we need to have, where do we find these? What do we have to do? How can we help you get this thing to the forefront of people's mind?
Well, I appreciate what you have just said. And your invitation this morning is a very good step towards that. I appreciate you allowing us to get the word out. So there will be a group, and I'm not sure how many yet, but there will be a group of like-minded legislators that will work together on this issue in appropriate ways and in appropriate time frames. But I will tell you that this small group in eastern Idaho is reaching out and hoping that we can gather folks from all parts of the state for that bigger platform that you have mentioned. And that effort is underway as we speak.
We've got a telephone caller looking to join us as well. Caller, you're on the air with State Representative Gerald Raymond on KLIX. Go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you very much for taking my phone call. I do agree with...
Well, I think your call didn't last long.
Gone.
Tries again. We've only got a couple of minutes to go. Just to reiterate, it's called Idahoans for Healthy Kids and Communities. That's a group that has set up a website. on this particular matter. I would imagine, too, Representative, that at least you'll find some support publicly from prosecutors across the state. I just know from a local level there's been some concern about this, and my guess is there are 43 other people who are on board with that, too.
There's no question about what there will be support from prosecutors. The Sheriff's Association has already sent a letter opposing this initiative. So we know we have the sheriff. We know we've got the prosecutors. There was a brief presentation to county commissioners a couple of weeks ago in Boise at the Idaho Association of Counties conference there. So it's unfortunately getting this word out is slower than should be, but the word is getting out, and there is a groundswell of support against this initiative. And I might just mention too, there may be folks that are listening that have already signed a petition, and I will just say that if you've done that and if you have second thoughts about that, there is a process where you can get your signature removed. And I wished I could articulate well how that process works, but I will tell you, if you go to your county clerk, they will help you remove your name from the petition. And all of the signatures that are on every one of these petitions have got to be validated. They've got to be verified by the county clerk in the county where you reside or where you signed that petition. Got to be a voting citizen for that signature to be valid.
Got about a minute to go. Anything else you wanted to add?
Just thank you so much for this opportunity, and we've got to get the word out, and I appreciate so much your help in getting the word out. This is very helpful. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Gerald. Thank you very much. And I've got your email and phone number, and I will try to stay in touch and do whatever I can to help down here in Magic Valley area. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you for the opportunity this morning. Appreciate it.
You Take care, sir. Thank you
care.
again. Representative Gerald Raymond joining us this morning from District 35 in East Idaho, which is better than saying Eastern Idaho.
We call that the Upper Valley.
Yeah. And Steve Millington, of course, in studio with us. Can you stick around for a few more minutes?
Sure, we can do that.
After the break, because we have some other things to touch on, too, as well. I have a great message coming in on jail expansion from a fellow by the name of Blake, sending me a message from here in Twin Falls. Using the app feature, I should point that out. The app on the cell phone is a great way to touch base with all of us. In the meantime, we're at 8:29, almost 8:30. We're at 46. We've got a break ahead. Bill Colley and Steve Millington on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. The weather has been kind of cool this morning. Maybe it's the wind. Right now it's blowing warm air in. We're up to 46, which is a big uptick.
Heat wave.
Yeah, it'll feel that way the next couple of days. That's for sure.